So for this final video project in Bio 162, I chose to elaborate on the topic structure and function. I'm going to use the musculoskeletal 3 and musculoskeletal 4 labs to further explore this topic. I chose this topic because being an athlete, I feel like I'm very in tune to my body and I have experiences with the functions and movements of these joints. So I feel like I can personally relate to these labs and I can explain it a little bit easier. So to start, the shoulder joint is a ball and socket joint. So this is where the head of the humerus, or the ball, and the glenoid cavity, the socket, come together, making the joint mobile. So this would be the head of the humerus, this would be the glenoid cavity, and it fits very well and it's very mobile and easily rotates and moves around. But like stated in the musculoskeletal 3 section and then again in the 4 section, there is an inverse relationship between joint mobility and joint stability. So with that being said, because the shoulder joint is so very mobile, it's not quite as stable, making it easy to possibly dislocate your shoulder joint doing sports or daily activities or getting in an accident or whatever may happen. It is very possible that your shoulder could dislocate. The hip joint is also a ball and socket joint where the head of the femur attaches to the pelvis, forming this joint. So again, if this was the head of the femur and this was the pelvis, it fits very well in there. Except this cavity in the hip, so like the pelvis, where the head of the femur sits, it's very much deeper than the glenoid cavity in the shoulder. So it's less mobile, but also way more stable, making it harder but not impossible to dislocate, because from personal experience, I have actually dislocated my hip and I would not recommend. So to show like the inverse relationships, even though the ball and socket joints are structurally kind of the same, like they both have a cavity and they both have the head of the bone in there, since the hip is way more sturdy or more stable, it's less mobile. So let's say like if you were to medially rotate your hip and laterally rotate your hip, it doesn't rotate as easy as medially and laterally rotating the shoulder joint. Same thing with flexion. So if you flex the hip and extend the hip, flex, extend, it's not quite as easy and it doesn't really swing as good either. I mean, it can. And also it depends too if like it's a little more flexible. I mean, joints vary, but again, it's always easier for your shoulder joint to swing back and forth and with more range of motion than it is for a hip joint. And then same with abduction and adduction. So shoulder joint can easily, while the hip joint doesn't really go up quite as high, doesn't swing as easy, but it is more stable. Also, like when you walk, your shoulders just kind of hang and swing easily, but your legs just don't do that because you need them to walk. They're not just swinging freely. And yeah, so that is my explanation on structure and function of joints, the shoulder joint and hip joint, ball and socket joints, and I hope that made it easier to understand. Thank you.